Get out. If you don't agree, get out. That was the first thing they said to me. No greeting, no explanation, no warning, just anger. The room was already tense when I walked in, but those words turned it into something else, something sharp, something dangerous. I didn't move. I stood there, bag still on my shoulder, trying to understand what crime I had committed this time. Explain, I said. What is going on? Nobody answered immediately. They just stared at me. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a discussion. This was a verdict. Someone slammed a glass onto the table. You ruined everything, they said. My heart started racing. What did I ruin? I asked. You know exactly what you did. That sentence again. That sentence people use when they don't want to explain, because the truth doesn't sound good out loud. I took a step forward. No, I don't. Tell me. They exchanged looks. Quick. Nervous. Then one of them finally spoke. You embarrassed us. You went against what we decided. We decided. That phrase hit me harder than any insult. Because I wasn't part of any decision. I never had been. But for years, I let them pretend I was. That night, the pretending ended. The shouting started almost immediately. Voices overlapping. Accusations flying. Old resentment spilling out. They said I had crossed a line by saying no. By asking questions. By not playing my role. I tried to stay calm. I really did. But the more I listened, the clearer it became. They weren't angry about what I did. They were angry that I stopped obeying. For most of my life, I had been the easy one. The quiet one. The one who didn't argue. If something needed to be handled, I handled it. If someone needed support, I showed up. If a sacrifice was required, it was always assumed I would make it. And I did. Not because I wanted to. But because I was taught that love meant compliance. Growing up, conflict was dangerous. Speaking up meant punishment. So I learned early that silence kept the peace. At least on the surface. So when plans were made without me, I adjusted. When decisions affected my future, I accepted it. When promises were made in my name, I stayed quiet. I told myself it was temporary. That one day, things would be different. But years passed, and nothing changed. Except me. I became exhausted. Not physically, emotionally. Carrying everyone's expectations while no one carried mine. The night everything exploded wasn't special. That's what hurts the most. It wasn't dramatic at first. It was just another decision. Another, we already agreed, situation. Except this time, it affected everything. My time, my finances, my future. And when they announced it casually, like it was already done, something inside me snapped. I asked a simple question. When did I agree to this? The reaction was immediate, defensive, aggressive, as if I had committed a crime by asking. That's not the point, they said. Why are you making things difficult? Why now? Why now? Because I finally understood the pattern. Because I finally saw how my silence had been used. I told them calmly that I wasn't okay with it. That I needed time. That I needed to be involved. They didn't hear any of that. All they heard was disobedience. That's when the accusations started. They said I was selfish. Ungrateful. Disloyal. They brought up everything they had ever done for me. As if love was a transaction. As if care came with conditions. The argument escalated quickly. Someone stood up. Someone else pointed a finger in my face. They raised their voice to drown out mine. That's when I realized something important. They weren't trying to understand me. They were trying to break me. To scare me back into silence. I felt my hands shaking. Not from fear. From anger. Years of swallowed words. Pushing up all at once. I raised my voice. For once, I said, I want to be part of the decision. The room exploded. They accused me of changing. Of becoming difficult. Of being influenced by others. Anything but accepting responsibility. They couldn't imagine that the problem was them. Because for years, I made it easy for them to believe they were right. The argument went in circles. Nothing I said mattered. Every sentence was twisted. Every explanation ignored. They didn't want dialogue. They wanted compliance. At some point, someone said something that changed everything. If you don't like it, they said, you can leave. There it was. The threat they always kept hidden. Leave. Lose your place. Lose your role. Lose your worth. In the past, that would have terrified me. That night, it didn't. It hurt. But it didn't scare me. Because I finally understood something. If my place only existed when I stayed silent, then it was never secure to begin with. I took a deep breath. I won't agree to something just to keep the peace, I said. The reaction was immediate, cold, detached, as if I had crossed an invisible line. They stopped arguing. They stopped explaining. They shut down. And that silence was louder than all the shouting before. I left shortly after. Nobody stopped me. Nobody followed. The door closed behind me with a finality that made my chest tighten. I sat in my car for a long time. Hands on the wheel, staring at nothing, trying to understand how everything had unraveled so quickly. Or maybe how it had been broken for years, and I was just late to notice. The days that followed were brutal. Messages came in waves, some angry, some manipulative, some pretending nothing happened. They accused me of abandoning them, of being dramatic, of overreacting. They said I was destroying the family. That word again, family, used like a weapon, but not once did anyone ask how I felt. Not once did anyone apologize. That hurt more than the fight. I started replaying my life in my head. Moments I had ignored, times I had been dismissed, times I had been praised only when I complied. I realized I had been rewarded for self-erasure. The more I gave up, the more they liked me. The moment I asked for space, I became a problem. That realization was painful, but it was also freeing. Because it meant I wasn't broken. I had just been trained. I stopped responding immediately. I took time for myself. That decision triggered another conflict. They said I was cold. That I was punishing them. That I was holding grudges. But the truth was simpler. I was protecting myself. Weeks passed. The silence stretched. Some relationships completely collapsed. Others changed permanently. And in the quiet, something unexpected happened. I felt lighter. I slept better. I stopped feeling anxious every time my phone buzzed. I started making decisions without fear. Without asking permission. Without rehearsing explanations. For the first time, my life felt like it belonged to me. Eventually, one person reached out. They admitted things hadn't been fair. Not fully, but enough. Others never did. And I learned to accept that. Because not every relationship survives boundaries. And that's not always a bad thing. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't before. Conflict isn't always destruction. Sometimes it's revelation. It shows you who benefits from your silence, who respects your voice, and who only wants control. If you're listening to this and you feel trapped, if you feel like your worth depends on how much you tolerate, hear this clearly. You are not selfish for wanting a say in your own life. You are not wrong for setting boundaries. And you are not difficult for refusing to be controlled. The moment you stop accepting everything is the moment your real life begins.